we saw that, the same Rudra, if you see it as just one manifestation of Ishvara. So the truth of Rudra is Ishvara. So now here it is said that you are the Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha, as we saw, is the Samashti subtle. So now what the idea is that any thought that has ever occurred, so Ishvara, this is why we say that it is survives time, space and objects. So that means, and there is no actual death in the universe. So everything gets stored. So that means, now that storage is something which is very important. See, the function of the storage is also very important, because the minute any discovery is made, it is stored in Hiranyagarbha. So that means we don't need to rediscover that, we only build on the knowledge. So that means something which was not a knowledge, for example, anything, for example, genetics, yeah, which was not a knowledge, now it is anybody who discovered anything is added to the common pool of knowledge. So now the next person doesn't have to reinvent that, we all build on that knowledge. So same thing with reference to, let's say, Vedanta. It's interesting, Vedanta has no real authorship. Even though they have no authorship because it was an oral tradition, there was one person, there are some very important links in the tradition of teaching. The first one is Vyasa. Vyasa is the one who compiled the Vedas. Right? So because something which was an oral tradition was now compiled in form of 4 Vedas. Now that is nobody needs to recompile it. People can begin to use it. So it is available for future generations. So that means that now everybody builds on that. The one person who built on it very significantly was Adi Shankaracharya. So what he did is, some Upanishads he wrote commentaries on. And that commentary is now in the common pool of knowledge. So now, Shankaracharya, if you, in terms of date, what is the date? It is
8th century.
8th century. So now, how many years have passed?
13th century.
13th centuries have passed.
13 centuries have passed, and we still study Adi Shankaracharya's commentary. So that means it is forever added in what? The common pool. So that means in Hiranyagarbha it is saved and people can draw from it. Now what happened is, the traditional methodology also, every teacher adds one's creativity. So now imagine Adi Shankaracharya, at that point in time there were some 5 schools that were existing, which were prominent. And there were Vaisheshika, there was Nayayika, there was Sankhya, there was Yoga, Purva Mimamsaka and Buddhist. So these are the thoughts that were contemporary while Adi Shankaracharya was alive. And not only he expounded on what Upanishads are saying, he entered into discussion with them and showed where they were logically not holding. So that means that whole body of knowledge which was not available, Upanishads were there, but this body of knowledge is Adi Shankaracharya's original contribution. So that means it stays, it is added to Hiranyagarbha. Now the world changes. Now our teacher is the one, in our times there was what, and for a longest time people were just reading Adi Shankaracharya's commentaries and they were just kind of repeating it. He was one person who said the teaching methodology involves that we not only look at the schools which existed in the past, you also have to look into the contemporary schools. So right now, who are the people that we enter in discussion with? Quantum physicists, neuroscientists, psychologists. So that means you add, because Adi Shankaracharya's time there was no quantum physics, There was no
Theologian.
neurosciences.
Theologian.
Theologians, exactly. So that means now the teacher adds one's creativity, and what happens? He adds to this common pool of knowledge. So he uses Adi Shankaracharya's commentaries, but he also adds what? His own creativity. Now by doing so, what does he do? He adds to again the common pool of knowledge. Because we learned from him, now what happens? We also share it with you. So when we share, we not only talk about what Adi Shankaracharya said, we also talk about what Swamiji said. So this is how one keeps on building on the pools. So this is where the teaching remains the same, but the methodology becomes what keeps evolving. So Rajan was asking that maybe in the codification of Veda, lot of the oral traditions were lost. Maybe it's a possible that other Upanishads which were there are lost by the time, you don't know. Now what happens is, some things are lost but constantly new additions are made. This is how the world is. So this is why each one, so now see what happens in this common pool of Hiranyagarbha, it's interesting. Now somebody like we saw, Tom Chi, so that he himself is thinking about what? Some interconnectedness and all on his own, right? He's not really into, but he's adding it to the common pool. Now because he's adding it to the common pool, Surya has access to it and he shows it in what? Vedanta class and includes it in methodology. To demonstrate one point of what? Interconnectedness. Bhagavad Gita is already talking about interconnectedness. It's not like the idea is new. Bhagavad Gita has a different way of looking at the expression of how we are interconnected is slightly different. You can always supply what? Some more material. So this is how, from Hiranyagarbha you can draw from things. And that's why every person who engages in the world deeply makes a very significant contribution. Very significant contribution. So that means, now imagine, hopefully I am learning everything that my teacher taught, but I also have my creativity. So that means when I use my creativity, I also add to what?
The Hiranyagarbha.
The Hiranyagarbha. So this is how the knowledge keeps getting added. And it benefits humanity. And for generations to come.
Perhaps there's a reason that it's oral, as in it's got a certain mutating quality, but it keeps the core intact.
It keeps the core intact. And you see, whether it is written or it is oral, in both cases, certain core is remaining intact. So this is why, this is a good point. Even though, let's say, among all the spiritual teachers, maybe only, I don't know how many percentage of people have actually studied Shankara Bhashyam, maybe very, very few. So that means, let's say, even if, let's say 90% of the spiritual people have not even studied, still it remains what? In the common pool, and 10% people can draw from it. So that's how the tradition continues. Even though, let's say the majority may be deviating from the original thing, the tradition continues. And now see, for example, now one person got it, how many teachers he has created? So he has created hundreds of teachers. So that means, and through him, new method, through him, all of Swami Dayananda's students will talk about physics, they will talk about neurosciences, they will talk about, I mean it also depends upon their own absorption capacity.
And background.
And background and all. But there is some, people tell us that Swami Dayananda's students stand out. Because the whole method, we are taught in a certain way, which others, Brahman, and it's all just some kind of a theory which is so inaccessible. So that means he has created a common pool and that will survive. Nothing gets lost because Ishvara as an entity survives cycles of creation. And this is why even at the time of unmanifestation, when the whole universe is dissolved, all information remains. This is why the jiva and karma, everything remains. And that's why the person doesn't start all over again. The person doesn't start from zero karma. The person starts from the entire thing which is already there in an unmanifest form, which has not yet come into manifestation. This is how the jiva goes on through cycles of creation. Because nothing is lost, it's all stored. The only thing that happens is what? There is no manifestation, but it is stored. So that means Hiranyagarbha stores everything. So that means, now what is interesting is here, this is a beautiful verse and it says, "O Hiranyagarbha, you are storing what? All the information about every person who has become wise and the thought processes which have led that person to discover the knowledge. May you bless us with knowledge, make that knowledge available to us."
He's saying in the verse.
He's saying in the
So you
verse.
can read the verse.
The verse says,
It's beautiful.
so here he says, Hiranyagarbha janaya masa purvam saha naha buddhya shubhaya sanyunaktu. Okay, so that means it says,
Sa naha buddhya
yeah. So
shubhaya.
yeah. So that means that this Hiranyagarbha which stores all the knowledge endow us with this good understanding. So that means there is everything stored, but also you need to have what? The absorption capacity. And even if your teacher is telling you everything which is stored, see, sometimes what happens is Swamiji has his own thought processes through which he understood the knowledge, right? Now imagine he transferred this knowledge to another person. The other person may not have exactly the same thought processes. The person has what? There is no two thought processes which are exactly identical. So that person has had their own thinking process to arrive at the knowledge. So those thinking processes are also stored in Hiranyagarbha. So let's say in this universe, let's say how many people got this knowledge? In every cycle of creation, there are always people who get this knowledge. All their thought processes are stored in Hiranyagarbha. So the knowledge is the same. The thought processes that lead to that knowledge can never be identical. 5 people have understood, let's say, some mathematical formula. The thought processes that they have are all different. They are not exactly identical and not in the same chronological order. Every thought is stored and potentially available for you to draw from. So this is where, in fact, it's saying that, that's what I was saying, that in Ishavasya Upanishad, it is said, the wise person, it is said that the wise person's meditations, the wise person's thought processes, his body goes forever, his subtle body is also disintegrated, the individuality is gone, but it is still stored in where? Hiranyagarbha. Stored. Forever. There is no destruction in the universe.
And how would you access this?
Exactly as I said, no? So now imagine Adi Shankaracharya had thought processes. How did he store it? Through writings. So the writings are now, he was existing in 8th century. No, 8th century? Yeah. So now we are how many centuries later, but we still access his. So it's stored. Now my teacher not only learned from him, he had his own thoughts. that is also stored. How is it stored? He transferred it to us, which is now in the common pool of knowledge, and we use it in order to share it with you. This is the process through which it is stored and it is transferred.
Okay, so this is basically kept in either alive in people, this knowledge,
Yes.
or in printed form. So it's not out somewhere you have to meditate to get access to some.
I think your question was
Knowledgeful.
how do you get access if it's not written down?
Exactly.
Or
Right.
if
And
not
no one
somebody
is
knows.
right.
Yeah, for
Saying
example,
it.
if some, my teacher knew some rare rags and she never taught them to anyone, they're gone.
See, the thing is that they are collapsed.
Really?
They are collapsed, even if they are not. See, that is a distinction. They are not. Maybe they are not available yet in any personal subtle body. This is why we make a distinction between what? Taijasa and Hiranyagarbha. Taijasa is what? Taijasa is your subtle mind. Hiranyagarbha is what? The samashti subtle mind. It stores, which is what? Not only your thought of this life, your thought in the past life, in the past life, in the past life, these thoughts of everyone, of all the jivas. It's all there. It may not be alive in the subtle body of an individual, but it is alive at Ishvara. That's why the upadhi is different.
But his question was is it possible for a human being
To download.
access this which is there but which is
Which
not
is not-
manifest?
Yeah.
Download.
See,
Download,
this is
download.
how to
Yeah.
download.
Download it, huh?
How to download it is mostly through people. But sometimes, what also happens, something is interesting. The more, it's like, how did Einstein download something which was actually not available in anybody's subtle body right now? Nobody had understood that time and space is relative. It was not existing in any subtle body. But that knowledge was there because it's a reality, and it was, he had, even though it was not existing in any mind, he had the capacity to download. How?
Like with every invention.
Like every invention. We all can have an invention. But that means human being is capable of seeing new things which are not in any subtle body and subtle mind, and human being is also able to receive from other subtle mind, both methodologies. Otherwise, you will never have new inventions, because new inventions by definition mean what? It was not yet there in a subtle mind of anyone, and still somebody had an access. So this is how. But yeah, so
Can you say there is growth in the human being with this?
yeah, so that
Or-
means that
Progress or because I remember you said actually there is never anything new or anything.
no, I never said nothing is new. What I said is we collapse. That's what I said. Like imagine 1,000 years. Nothing new means what we have inventions, but inventions happen within possibilities. Possibilities are given. Collapsing of the possibility is something that is what we call invention. So that means computer was not there. So computer is new. Nobody can say computer was always there. But computer is existing, collapsing certain possibilities which are already in the creation. So the universe comes with possibilities. Human beings collapse the possibilities. That collapsed possibility knowledge is available. This is why we make what initially we make a television. Nobody needs to reinvent television, but you can move from a normal television to LED, then LED to smart television. So we increase our knowledge by further inventions. But every invention that is done is already stored. So Ishvara is nothing new. What? Every second things are new. The manifest, the unmanifest, which is now, is going to give way and bring something new.
Yeah, Mine was a remembrance of we are higher in a higher growth or in higher than the centuries before, like this. And I remember you said it's not really that we are now in a better position or in a higher.
No, I was speaking in terms of, in spite of having all these discoveries, if you think in terms of human deprivations, how human being feels, on one hand there is a tremendous progress, right? So as I told you that just 100 years ago people had to go to the river and fetch water. Now you just open a tap and the water is available. Before people had to climb the stairs, now elevators are available. So that way you can say that there is a progress. But if you look at that I was saying that doesn't make Ishvara irrelevant. That is what I was saying. But Ishvara, the possibilities are there, possibilities are collapsed, we build on possibilities. But what then still remains is what? The question still remains about human fulfillment. So in that sense, we haven't really made real progress. So that's what I was saying. So it's not like no inventions are made. Constantly the world is changing. Is it clear?
Yeah. Maybe I have a wrong remembrance about this.
Yeah.
So it's about feeling that we are more involved, more.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, that when we make computers, we feel that we are more evolved, and in some ways it's true, but if you think about our emotional life, that how much more fulfilled we are, then that it is not as much of a progress.
So if you look at people 50 years back and today, more people are feeling insecure about everything. There's a higher level of insecurity today, higher level of uncertainty with respect to a lot of things. Because of the development has created this feeling, and the disparity, the future, the fear, everything is created. So in that way people are feeling hollower and feeling more fearful than probably when everything was very quiet and stable. In that, not much was happening.
So what I was saying, on one, it depends upon what is your definition of progress.
Correct.
If your definition of progress is that we have
Technology.
moved from fetching water to opening, then there is a huge progress. We can't deny that. But if your definition of progress is how much more fulfilled we are feeling, then we have not really progressed that much. The progress will remain. So that, in that sense, if at all, exactly. So that's what he's saying. We are actually at times more digressing. But that also is a little bit of a, that is a good point. Because like we also, there is a certain amount of romanticism we have. And we always say, as though the previous life was much better than now. But it's actually not totally so either. Because, people say, oh, things are so bad now. I said, in fact, India is independent for how long now? 60, 70 years. 70 years of independence. So 70 years ago, India did not even have an independence. We were ruled by another country. So when, and there were world wars. So it's not like now it's very bad and previously it was all wonderful. That also is not totally true.
Actually, the reverse is true. Because if you look at history backwards, the amount of violence and deaths that have happened in the last 200 years has been much higher than today. But the point is, the information that comes across is so heavy that every small issue reaches. But so you feel that there is more.
See, actually the true reality is everybody who's on earth is somebody who doesn't know the reality. That's why you've taken birth. Otherwise you would not be born. So that means when we don't know the reality, we live with very partial vision on things. And with that very partial vision, with the best of the intentions, we can't do everything right. This is the truth. So that is why at no given point in time, in reality, earth can be perfect. Why? Because if the people who are living on this earth, they are operating from ignorance, there is, and with very limited standpoint, they by definition cannot create an external world which is wonderful. It's not possible. And in fact, if everything was perfect, then you will not go towards moksha. So these challenges that come, they actually move you towards your true nature, which is infinite. So that's why you have to look at everything in a holistic manner. Then nothing is a problem. Challenge is actually helping you in some ways to move towards your true nature. So is it bad or is it good? So this is how. So that means at any given point in time, so this is why our teacher used to say, even in Rama's time, we say, oh, it was Satyuga, there was Ravana. There were people, right? So it is not like that everybody was wonderful. There are always characters. Because every human being is born of what? Punya and Papa. So Papa, how is it going to manifest in your life? Somebody gives you a hard time. Something happens to you. This is how. Or you give somebody a hard time because you are also operating from ignorance. This is how everybody experiences one's punya and papa. Through other people also. All the characters, we are generally holding guilt and hurt, not in vacuum, always with reference to people. That means, as long as people have not removed their ignorance, knowingly and unknowingly, they do something which is inappropriate, and they are also subject to somebody else's actions which are inappropriate. It's unavoidable. So in that sense, that is the definition, no matter how much we use our cognitive capacity, as long as we operate from ignorance, we still continue to have challenges. That is a fact. So the solution is not to have a perfect world, but the solution is to have what? Remove your ignorance so you can see the world as it is. Then you're free. So that is how it is. So now this Hiranyagarbha, we are actually understanding that Ishvara as Hiranyagarbha stores everything, and what we are praying for is what? Drawing from this knowledge. Now, the easiest way to draw from this knowledge is what?
Removal of ignorance.
Yeah, but you take what the knowledge, as Lutz is asking, knowledge which is already available to you in let's say books. So now Lutz's question is very good, because there are many people who can use this argument, and they already use this argument. Knowledge is there, and just as rishis could get it, I can also technically get it. So why should I study Veda? Why should I study everything? I'll sit and I will meditate, and I will draw from the original source. So many people have this idea.
Shortcut.
In fact, it's not a shortcut, it's like an escapism. You can't say, see now, for everything, for example, whatever mathematician has already come up with, it is available to you in form of a text. Instead of using it, you are saying, I'll wait to get it. It is foolishness. Because you are trying to reinvent what? The knowledge is already available to you through text, through teachers, and you are not making use of it, but you are waiting to draw it from this thing. So that is not how it works. Actually, the wisest thing is to use from what? The existing pool, which is available to us, and maybe some additional things will be revealed to us. Wonderful.
If you focus and put effort in something, you may get
You
something
exactly additional. Absolutely. So you always draw from the existing, and then you may be able to add something additional. If you wait for everything to come, then you are not using the existing force. yeah, existing pool of knowledge. Is it clear or not?
Yes.
It is like, okay, I'll make it a little bit light. So now Surya is always reminding me.
Thank you.
So I will end maybe with this story. It's an interesting story. It's a simple story because it's night. So it's not a... So there was this man who was a very big devotee. So he's a very big devotee, so he's constantly, in prayers and in this and that. Now, one day, that village has a lot of rains. So everybody is kind of, getting a little bit worried about all the rains and all. And this person is not bothered, and he says, no, I'm praying so hard, Ishvara will take care of me. And then the water starts rising, so everybody is even more afraid that, my God, there is going to be floods. And this person says, oh no, don't worry, I'm praying so much, Ishvara will take care of me. And then the waters start rising even more and more. So the villagers say, now I think the time has come that we evacuate, because we are going to be totally underwater. So they all start leaving the village, and this person says, no, I'm very prayerful. I'm going to rely directly. I have a direct connection. So I'm going to get help from him. So this is what. So people leave, and then he stays. Now the waters start rising even more, and most of the few people who were left in the village, they also decide to leave. So before they decide to leave, they also ask him to come along, because they were the last ones to leave the village. And he says, no, I have a direct connection. You guys go, I will be taken care of. Then everybody leaves, he's alone in the village.
And he's on the roof of his
Now,
house.
and he's on the roof of his house, he's sitting and he's saying, I have a direct connection. Then the waters begin to rise so much that there is a troop, how do you say, the fire brigade, or who are the people who come to save you and all. So they come to take him, saying that, okay, now the water is rising and you are the last one remaining in this village, and he sends them all back. And then he says, no, I have a direct connection and Ishvara will take care of me. Then the whole fire brigade goes, because he is refusing to move. Then the water rises even more. Then there is an aeroplane that comes to airlift, because it's now really the crisis. The water has reached. He sends them back and he says, no, I don't want to come with you. I'm fine here. Ishvara will take care of me. So he sends back the air helicopter. Now he drowns. He drowns. Now this is a funny story, right? So don't ask me questions on that. So now, then he goes and he's very upset with God. He's like, oh, what? I have so much faith in you, and you just drown me? What is this? And you are useless. I'm praying and praying and praying, and you didn't come at all to help me. Now I'm drowned, I'm dead. What is this? Ishvara says, I came to you in form of first group of villagers who came to take you. They are not away from me. Later on, you didn't listen to them. I came to you again with the last group of villagers which were remaining, again to ask you to come. You didn't listen to them, because you wanted some direct connection. They are not away. Right? Then I came in form of the fire brigade people, and you didn't listen. You didn't see me there. Then I came with helicopter you didn't see me. So that means now I came in all these different ways. You were what? With your idea of Ishvara. And every time I came, you didn't take me up. So now you have come up. Same thing. Knowledge is available to you on a platter. The teaching tradition is very much there, which helps you to see this reality. The teachers who have understood the reality are there. The creativity is there. And you still feel that I want that direct connection. And you don't use any of these methods which are not away from Ishvara, that is foolish. Because Ishvara is not away. This whole design is Ishvara. Knowledge is available in Hiranyagarbha and it is already transferred to some people. It is already collapsed by some people. And those people have transferred it to some other people. And those people who have received have also transferred it to some other people. This whole tradition is available to you. Then to think that, oh, I want that to draw directly from Hiranyagarbha and not make use of these channels, that is foolish. So this is why, as Gabby was saying, we draw from there and then we add our creativity. Wonderful. Because there is no two human beings who think exactly the same. Even if they've arrived at the same truth, their thought processes are what? Different. So they add to Hiranyagarbha. Every thought that you have had to arrive at this reality is added. It's added to Ishvara forever. Forever. Doesn't get erased. So that means that that is the strength that human being has been given. Every thought which is a noble thought is a forever addition. Forever. And others can also draw from it. And it becomes a heritage of humanity. Heritage of humanity. So this is how Hiranyagarbha works. And this is the mechanism through which every knowledge is passing on. Nobody has to reinvent everything. The pool of knowledge you use and you build on it. You use and you build on it. So this is how it is. Yeah. That's the end of this. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.